Action 1. Inspiring action.
Look up, because you never know what you will see. Hi, my name is Shen Ge, and I'm the host of SG2 on Space, the only weekly space show here in Houston, with Action 1 Media Group support every Thursday night. So, my goal here is to educate the public in terms of space science, space flight, physics, astronomy, etc. You know, all that cool jazz, and occasionally about aliens as well. So STEAM education, science, technology, engineering, arts, since that's part of the creative aspect, and mathematics is very important to me. And I feel like Action 1 Media's goal is aligned with mine. So together, we hope to encourage the knowledge, and especially the passion and interest in outer space in our Houston community. Tune in to SG2 on Space on Thursdays at 8 p.m. U.S. Central Time. Look up, because you never know what you will see.
Action 1. Inspiring action.
All right, so as always, welcome everyone. This is your host, Shen Ge. Thank you for listening to SG2 on Space. All right, so episode number 45. Not sure if I just said that, but anyways, the only weekly space show here in Houston, Texas, as I always like to say. So you can follow me at facebook.com/The Shen Show, as well as that's a place where you can watch it. The other place you can watch it is weareA1.com, the website of Action 1 Media Group, which is where I am, the studio, every Thursday night. This is where I am. So, and of course, there is a call-in number, guys, 713-489-9250. So if you guys have a question, feel free to call, or you can post it on the Facebook while the show is going on, right? So 713-489-9250. That's the number of the Action 1 Media studio here. And of course, with my revamped Patreon page, so feel free to go to patreon.com/SG2 on Space. If you want to become a patron for this show, it does cost some money to get the show running, keep the show running. So it'd be great for your support, and you can take a look at it on what cool stuff you can get. Notably, you can get some airtime yourself to support your business or organization or whatever you happen to be doing. Okay, so that should be great. All right, then. Figured today we're going to talk a lot about space missions and new technology, mostly what is going on with, I like to focus on the moon, because clearly everybody wants to go to the moon these days, which is great, because I've always felt like that should be the place to go before Mars or other places. But before that, let's talk about a few things on the political side in our country, let's just say, or, more associated with that. So one thing, some of you may already know this, but here in the U.S., the U.S. Space Command has been formally reestablished, let's just say. So the U.S. Space Command, we had one from 1985 until 2002 when it was dissolved by the George W. Bush administration. So those functions were absorbed by the U.S. Strategic Command, supposedly to free up resources to create U.S. Northern Command to oversee homeland defense. All right, so essentially, why did our current administration decide to do this? Well, space has become a quote-unquote vital domain that is critical to the nation's security and economy and is no longer a benign environment. This is according to Raymond, who is Commander Air Force General John J. Raymond. So, and I think not most likely, I know the reasons are due to the increasing capabilities of China and Russia. So they're going to have, U.S. Spacecom is going to have a temporary headquarters, about 287 people at Peterson Air Force Base, which is in Colorado. But then they're going to have a permanent one, one of 6 different locations, all of those Air Force bases, all right, in 6 different states. I'm sorry, a lot of them are in Colorado, so not quite 6 different states. So, so just a note, guys, U.S. Spacecom is one of 3 space reorganization efforts by the Department of Defense. So the other 2 is, any hints? Well, one of them is a Space Development Agency, which is supposed to help design new space architecture to take advantage of commercial technology, right? Which is awesome. And the other one is something still under works, which is I guess might be called the Space Force. Who knows if that's going to happen? But if it does, it'd be the 3rd part of the Department of Defense that specifically focuses on space. Okay, so speaking of administration also, it's interesting how capable, I suppose, some of the spy satellites are these days. And we got a very good glimpse of that, pun intended, thanks to our president. I'm not going to comment politically on whether that was a smart move, but let's just say it's all over the internet now. So essentially, this was a picture taken of the botched launch by Iran, and it was commercial satellites such as Planet, the small, not the small, the Earth imaging satellite network, Planet, formerly called Planet Labs. They took some pictures as well, and some other ones. I think Worldview, some other company did as well, but theirs lacked in the image quality compared to the one that was posted by Donald Trump, and hence so astronomers are and aerospace folks, rocket scientists, right, and astronomers, physicists are very good at figuring out orbits. I mean, you can't really hide a satellite, even if it's a spy satellite or something that you're not supposed to talk about. You know where it is. You can see it. You may not know what it's doing, but you know where it is. You can track its orbit, right? It's still following Newton's laws. So in a very short amount of time, they figured out that it is not due to a drone or anything, and it's instead due to a satellite called USA 224, and it's not unlike the Hubble Space Telescope, except instead of pointing out and exploring the universe, whatever, is looking down at Earth's surface, right? So USA 224 it costs billions of dollars to build. It has a 2.4 meter diameter mirror, which is the same as Hubble's. So in any case, apparently it surprised a lot of people, a lot of experts, because nobody expected the satellite imagery to be this good. So originally, for instance, Melissa Hanham of the Open Nuclear Network in Vienna, she said that she did not believe the image could come from a satellite. So, Now of course the question is, how the heck do they, since you have to see through the clouds and everything, right? And to have that level of detail is quite amazing. So, interesting technology here. So I'm sure people will, outside of the defense group will be looking at it, including other countries, on how exactly can you get such clear images. All right, so enough about that. I want to move on and talk about the lunar exploration. Notably, right now, what's hot on people's radars is the Chandrayaan-2, which is an Indian. There's going to be the first Indian lander / rover that's going to touch down on the moon. It also has an orbital component. But before we hop into that, let's take a quick break, and then we'll jump into it.
Some of the other things you got going on.
Absolutely. So thank you for having me. I feel like I'm in the presence of like celebrity.
It's just the shades, man.
So I think like 2000.
Put your money where your community is. Get in the action. Action 1. Independent thinkers working together. Inspiring action in media. Get in the action. Inspire today. Join us by being a sponsor at weareA1.com.
Growing up as a black kid in New Jersey, all I ever wanted to do was be a pro athlete. All of my role models were black athletes. And every time I would stare out the window and look at the sky and wonder what I'd be in the future, it always had to do with me catching some crazy football and scoring a touchdown. When it came to the point that I was told that I would not be able to play on an organized sports team for the rest of my life, it was something that I really didn't even know how to stomach in the moment. And I remember walking out of my cardiologist's office and just sitting in the hallway and breaking down for a few minutes just because it was something that I just couldn't plan for and couldn't account for. And I realized that in that moment, my entire life was going to be changed. And all of those dreams and hopes and aspirations that I had were going to go out of the window.
Looking for a compact SUV that's big on features? Then you need to check out the new 2019 Ford EcoSport.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
इस समय आप अपनी स्क्रीन पर देख रहे हैं 2 S200 रॉकेट
प्लस 5 सेकंड
दोनों का प्रज्वलन हो गया है और उससे 640 टन वाले मार्क 3 रॉकेट नौगन को ऊपर की ओर लेके जा रहे हैं। पैरामीटर्स जैसे कि घोषित किए गए थे उसी के पर चल रहा है रॉकेट। अभी हम लोग कोशिश करेंगे कि आईआर का इंफ्रारेड कैमरे का व्यू भी हमारे सामने आए तो मैं आपको थोड़ा इसके बारे में भी बताऊंगा। जैसा कि अभी घोषणा की गई है सारे पैरामीटर्स सामान्य हैं।
The S200s performing normally, and on your screens on the red is the plant trajectory and the blinking dots are the current position of the vehicle. We are about 1 minute 22 seconds into the launch. The S200 developed a total thrust of nearly 6,000 kilonewtons, and they are loaded with 205 tons of propellant each. On your screens, Dr. Shivan, Chairman ISRO, flanked by Sri Somnath, Director VSSC. And now we are slowly and steadily reaching a phase where the L110 ignition will happen.
L110 engine started. अभी अनाउंस किया गया कि L110 जो कि हमारा दूसरा मुख्य रॉकेट है उसका इग्निशन हो गया है, उसके दोनों इंजन प्रज्वलित हो गए हैं और इसके प्रज्वलन होने से
everything starts with ingredients and
Okay, so we are back. SG2 on space. I was going to say today's date, but I'm sure you guys can see that. So episode number 45, SG2 on space, the only weekly space show here in Houston, Texas, or Texas in general. So, in any case, today I want to talk about the various space missions that's going on, particular, say, to the moon and possibly some other places. So what you just saw was India's Chandrayaan-2 mission, which will land near the moon's south pole. All right, which is great because you might think, okay, actually, you know what? Why is that great? Well, I think I mentioned this before, that the South Pole Aitken Basin has water and a bunch of stuff, you know? That would be a prime candidate for a future lunar base, and it's just interesting geologically. So, now this lander is actually, lander plus rover, is going to a place where nobody has gone before. In fact, it's the southernmost lander that's ever going to land, that's ever landed on the moon. So the Chinese one is at like 45 degrees latitude. Okay, this one's like much closer to the pole. Okay, and the Apollo ones were really close to the equator. Okay, so now where is it going to land? It actually doesn't have a name, at least not yet. But in just a few days, if all goes well, this will definitely be named. So the spot of the landing is a highland that rises between two craters. They're called Manzinus C and Simpelius N. So on the grid of the moon's surface, if we divide it up like Earth, latitude and longitude, it would be a 70.9 degrees south latitude and 22.7 degrees east longitude. So it's about 375 miles or 600 kilometers from the South Pole. So the plan is to touch down on Friday, September 6th, between 4 to 5 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. Or that is in India, September 7th, between 1:30 and 2:30 a.m. So Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, oversees the mission. They also have a backup site selected, which is at 67.7 degrees south latitude and 18.4 degrees west longitude. So, either way, regardless of either of those two sites, it will become the southernmost spot on the moon to be visited by the spacecraft. So, anyways, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. So please note that the rover and the lander is only going to be able to operate for 14 days. At least they were designed to not be able to survive the lunar night since it gets really cold. All right. But if it does, that would be great. Okay. Now the orbiter that's going around the moon has a lifetime of at least a year. All right. So the entire mission is very affordable. I'm going to use that word. I guess I could use the word cheap. It's about $150 million. All right. So let's see what happens. Cross our fingers. And if India lands, they will definitely, let's see what country. There would be the fourth country to successfully soft land on the moon. Okay. Remember, the Israelis tried a few months back. Unfortunately, that did not quite work. You could say they landed, but it wasn't an intentional landing. All right. So speaking of, so it's not just governments that's looking into this. Okay. Well, actually, let's talk about NASA first. All right. Before we talk about this foundation. So NASA has refined plans. This is really brief for the Artemis lunar lander. Remember, Artemis is the sister of Apollo in Greek mythology. And Artemis is is NASA's current human lunar landing program. All right. So NASA recently, this week, has updated a draft solicitation for crewed lunar landers. So it adjusted some details on how it plans to purchase these landers to meet the agency's goal of landing humans on the moon by 2024. So Anyways, like the original draft published on July 19th, this is part of NASA's Next Space Technologies for Exploration Partnerships, next step. Okay, so this revised draft, what does it have? Well, it does maintain the basic outlines of the program, such as NASA's plans to acquire lunar lander services from commercial companies rather than landers themselves. So, there's going to be an initial lander to support missions 2024 and 2025, and there's going to be then a more advanced sustainable lander in 2026. All right, so the revised version with that incorporates smaller changes based on some industry feedback. So there were like 850 something comments that were changed. So among those changes is a reduction in the number of specific deliverables required by NASA. Another is that companies can propose using the Space Launch System, which is the rocket that's been developed by NASA to launch their landers. However, if the company decides to use the SOS rocket, they will have to work with NASA's SOS program and its contractors. All right. So there's also a change on the fact that the lunar lander, there's going to be an emphasis on long-term affordability rather than a requirement for reusability. So, yeah. And then there's a number of other changes as well. So, anyways, this is a second draft. So a final version is going to be releasing early autumn, and then there might be another draft actually before the final version. So, and these these awards will be given to companies in December. So look forward to that. Who are the winners going to be? I have a feeling that maybe Lockheed Martin would be one of them. Who knows? It would be the big players, maybe Boeing. I don't know. So, I don't. With this kind of program, I don't expect it to be any smaller companies. So, speaking of smaller companies and the entrepreneurial mindset, recently I did not even know about this foundation. There is a foundation called Open Lunar Foundation, and they just so they're a San Francisco nonprofit. And they want to create settlements on the moon. So Steve Jurvenstein and executives from Planet Labs, which I mentioned before, which is a small satellite company doing imagery, right? That's been around for a little while. So $5 million is invested in this organization right now, founded in 2018, which is very recent. So they recently presented analysis that it would be possible to create a small lunar settlement for somewhere between $2 billion to $3 billion, which is extremely cheap, all right? So how is that done? Well, this is based on, say, the lower cost of the SpaceX Heavy and possibilities from the SpaceX Starship Super Heavy. So according to Steve Jurvenstein, who's a Silicon Valley venture capitalist, is that he says this: the picture that emerged out of those meetings was that you could create a permanent, economically self-sustaining presence on the moon that could be done for the single-digit billions. So, this is kind of based on Robert Zubrin's Mars Direct, which I'm not sure if I completely agree with that plan, but basically Mars Direct was going straight to Mars, all right? There was no middle hopping ground. So, similarly, this could be called a Moon Direct mission, right? So launch costs and non-launch costs would then be roughly equal. So Moon Direct setup missions cost about $1.5 billion. Recurring missions would cost about $420 billion per year. To give you in perspective, that's about 2% of NASA's current annual budget. All right, so with $2 billion, yeah, okay. NASA's human spaceflight program right now is funded about $10 billion per year, which is, I think, mostly for the International Space Station. So, in any case, so the three phases are, and this is completely different, by the way, from the current NASA Artemis plan, which is, build up the Lunar Gateway, which is the space station around the moon, all that jazz, right? And go with the SOS, a space launch system that NASA's building up. And the Orion spacecraft that's going to be attached to the Space Launch System. Okay, so anyways, this Moon Direct plan is basically unmanned missions phase 1. Unmanned missions deliver the materials from the lunar base to the moon. Phase 2, piloted missions, which is directly to that base, make the base operational. So key objective here is to bring propellant production online, make it continuously available. Then phase 3, which is the long-term phase, so recurring piloted missions using propellant produced on site. Okay, which is kind of cool. So in phase 1, 2 Falcon Heavy boosters are used to deliver the materials for the base to the moon. In phase 2, 1 Falcon Heavy and 1 Falcon 9 are used to deliver the crew to the moon in a fueled LEV. All right. So, LE Lunar Exploration Vehicle. All right. So, and once you're on the moon, you will do the top priority is propellant production, right? So, liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen, essentially, which produces, water, but it combusts. Okay, liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen. So you will need to be able to set that up. So I would imagine you would need to mine the ice on the moon and break it down. So, in any case, I think that would probably be one of the hardest parts to do. But if it could be done, yeah, this would be this is completely feasible technically. So. Now, noted right now, it's just a floating idea. I don't know if this foundation is going to be able to raise that much money or if that's their intention, but at least it puts it out there. Maybe somebody like SpaceX might do it, or some other company, or a consortium. Let's see what happens, right? This is definitely an alternative to the government-sponsored programs. So, yep. Okay, so I mentioned SpaceX in terms of this. Well, one of the things is, I have talked about the SpaceX Starship, which remember their second stage launched up a little bit last week. We saw a little video of that, and then came back down, which was kind of cool. So there's going to be an orbital version of the Starship that's going to be tested for a 20-kilometer flight in October, and that's actually not quite orbital. The 20-kilometer flight isn't, but then there's going to be an orbit attempt shortly afterwards. So, update from Elon Musk will be given on September 28th. So, which is, by the way, is the anniversary of SpaceX actually reaching orbit. And then the Starship MK1, which just sounds so futuristic. Seriously. It would be fully assembled by September 28th, 2019, which is, wow, such a rush timeline. But that's what they do, I guess. That's really cool. So that is still behind the target that Elon has set. But hey, it's still going pretty fast. So this is stainless steel construction, right? That's what SpaceX says has enabled their rapid construction and testing of these rockets. So, so in any case, let us see what happens. As a brief background again, Starship is the second stage for the BFR launch vehicle that provides acceleration to orbital velocity on all launches from Earth, right? So, any case, so there's basically a couple of three operational versions with this. So, one version is Spaceship, which is a large, long-duration spacecraft capable of carrying passengers to other planets or to low Earth orbit or between destinations on Earth. Okay. Then there's the satellite delivery spacecraft, which is a vehicle able to transport and place satellites basically into orbit, and for in-space recovery of spacecraft and space debris to return to Earth or move stuff to another orbit. All right. So we talk about Spaceship, satellite delivery spacecraft, and then there's a tanker, which is a cargo-only propellant tanker to support refilling. Think of an orbital gas station, basically. So this tanker will enable heavier spacecrafts to be launched to beyond, right? So you can imagine a spacecraft that's launched into low Earth orbit, say, and then a tanker that's launched and then docks with that and then fuels it, and then that spacecraft can keep going, right, to wherever, Mars or beyond. So, this is going to be quite adaptable. It should be really interesting. So, All right, let's talk about beyond. Actually, you know what? I might as well talk about the space elevator stuff because I figured we can talk about this asteroid thing a little bit later. Okay, so space elevators. I'm sure that most people who pay attention to the various interesting ways to get into space has heard of it. Now, I don't think any of the contenders or commercial companies, let's just say, are really, not many of them are looking into that. But certainly it's not falling off of the public imagination. Okay, Elon Musk apparently does not believe in it, as you can see in this interview. So let's hear what he has to say, and I'm going to tell you what I have to say. This is him being asked about space elevator,
you know. You're just like, now you're in space. This is extremely complicated. I don't think it's really realistic to have a space elevator. And I mean, let me put it this way, like, at the point at which we have like a bridge from LA to Tokyo, which I think is a much easier problem, then how about across the Atlantic, like some sort of 2,000-mile long bridge, 3,000-mile long bridge, something like that would be, made of like carbon nanotubes. Like I don't think we've got a carbon nanotube footbridge so far, let alone some enormous 60,000-mile long space elevator. Anyway, so I think it's not the thing that I think makes sense right now, but hey, if somebody can prove me wrong, and that'll be great.
Okay, so
garlic.
Elon there is basically saying that I don't know what that was. Wow, that was interesting. Oh, that was fun. So yeah, Elon's saying, all right, you can't do it. We don't have any material strong enough. It's just going to collapse under in some way, which is actually true. A smart guy like him would know that, right? And it's very true. We don't have carbon nanotubes. People keep saying that, but it's not to the point where you can go build a space elevator. However, you could build one on the moon. Have you guys thought about that? Well, apparently some people have in the past. I don't know what resulted out of it, but recently these students have come up with this. So Zephyr, oh my gosh, what's up with these names? Okay, Zephyre and Penoyre. Okay, that's the same person. And Emily Stanford, who's from University of Cambridge's Institute of Astronomy and Department of Astronomy at Columbia University, respectively. So they published a study which appeared online, which I have yet to read myself, but I'm sure is very good, which talks about building a space elevator on the moon. Now, why could you do that? Take one guess why. Okay, I'm just going to phrase what Penori says. The necessary strength of the material is much lower than an Earth-based elevator, and thus it could be built from fibers that are already mass-produced and relatively affordable. The space line also avoids the region of space where collisions are most likely, near Earth. It can be deployed relatively cheaply and easily by spooling the cable simultaneously towards Earth and the Moon from the Lagrange point, and is more stable. Okay, Lagrange point, just a quick note there, that's a region of space where it's dynamically stable, so it's not going to move around. If you put something there, it's going to stay there, okay? Relative to the Moon's position, Earth-Moon position. All right. So naturally, this is way more complicated than they're just putting it, but at least it's feasible, right? We could actually do it. So initially, they developed this independently, and then they realized, hey, wait a minute, there's been a proposal in the past about this. Now, there are key differences between their proposal and the ones in the past. So one of them being, for instance, that most of the past lunar space elevator concepts imagines the major function to be moving, a lot of cargo to and from the lunar surface, right? So in contrast, the intended purpose of this is not about facilitating trips from from the lunar surface, but rather it's not just carry a huge amount of cargo. There will be a bunch of them. So, any case, now, why is this more advantageous than say a rocket? Well, a huge part of it, as I just talked about in the last one, where you have to not build propellant, get propellant for propulsion to get off of the moon and to land on the moon. This will completely negate the need for that, right? You just take an elevator, you go up. It's kind of like you don't need to wear a jetpack to go up to the 4th floor of a building, right? You just take an elevator. All right. Probably not the best analogy because I don't know many people who wear jetpacks to go up to the 4th floor anyway, but in space, that's what basically people are doing, right? So it's really exciting if you can actually place a Lagrange point. So the reason is that, like the person said, like Ponori says, is okay. So the Lagrange point, at least some of them are not stable on their own, right? So he says this. All right, the point is not stable on its own. Small motions towards or away from the Earth will cause any mass to accelerate away from that point. But when attached to a tether line, that radiant motion is arrested. The extra ability to ship material to that point comparatively cheaply and easily further reduces the cost and increases the habitability of this region. So we can imagine putting, say, a space station around there. We would, right? We would put it in a Lagrange point, most likely, and have the special elevator basically go up to that, to that vicinity or the station itself, which would be really cool. So let us see what happens, right? Who knows? That might be, this could be the future. I mean, I don't think in 2024 we'll have that. This is still a mega structure. But I think maybe in the next 50 years, I wouldn't think it would be too difficult. If we get a base built on the moon especially, I would think then that people would look into other more affordable alternatives to, we shall see. So, all right, in other stuff, I was going to say this. Moving out beyond Earth-Moon sphere, let's talk about asteroids. So apparently Europe and U.S., specifically NASA and ESA, may be trying to go and deflect an asteroid. So next week, so mid-September, there's a 3-day international asteroid impact deflection assessment workshop. That's from September 11th to 13th. So it's going to be focused on this NASA ESA joint venture. So the purpose of this 2 spacecraft system is to deflect the orbit of one of the bodies that make up the binary asteroid Didymos. Okay, so when I say binary asteroid, I mean just 2 asteroids that orbit each other. Okay, so these 2 asteroids orbit between Earth and Mars. So one spacecraft, and this is interesting, one spacecraft will collide with it, and the other one will observe the impact, survey the crash site to gather as much data as possible about this method of asteroid defense. It's a classic one, right? You blow it up. You send a missile, or in this case, you throw a spacecraft at it, in this case. So for this mission, the target, like I said, is Didymos, which is a near-Earth binary asteroid system. So it has a large asteroid and an orbiting moonlet. So the main body of this measures about 780 meters, which is 2,560 feet in diameter, and its moonlet, the smaller one, called Didymos B, is about 160 meters or 525 feet in diameter. Okay, so this spacecraft, by the way, is called Double Asteroid Impact Test. Guess what that acronym is? Double Asteroid Impact Test. It's funny. It's DART. Yes, you're going to throw a dart. All right. Somebody got creative. All right. So, yes. So, DART is currently under construction. Now, the European side, the Italian-made CubeSat is known as... Okay, maybe this means something in Italian. I don't know. Licia. I don't know Italian. LICIA, which stands for Light Italian CubeSat for Imaging of Asteroids. So, And it's going to deploy to record the moment of impact, which will be so cool. All right. Then there's oh wow. Okay, there's more. Then there's ESA's Hera, which is going to be the primary spacecraft that performs a close-up survey of the asteroid. So this will take measurements of the asteroid's mass and the impact crater shape. Okay, yeah. It will also deploy CubeSats. It seems everybody loves CubeSats these days. So Hera will deploy 2 CubeSats to conduct close-up surveys and the first ever radar probe of an asteroid close-up. Okay, so DART's currently being built at Johns Hopkins University, blah, blah, right? And when's this launching with all this cool stuff happening? Well, summer of 2021. When's it colliding? Well, hopefully by September 2022, all right? And it's going to collide at a speed of 6.6 kilometers per second, or in other words, about 14,800 miles per hour, which is, pretty fast, right? I think if you or I crashed into an asteroid, you'd probably die. I mean, so would I, but just saying. All right. So let's see what happens here. This is pretty exciting stuff. Okay, so aside from that, there's also the talk of going to the asteroid Sirius, actually. So NASA and ESA are considering a sample return mission to the dwarf planet Sirius. Sirius is the largest asteroid, so it's between Earth and Mars. And apparently after Earth, it's the most water-rich object in the inner solar system, which was completely unexpected when that was found out. So, yeah, who knows? We may happen, right? So Sirius was studied by NASA's Dawn Mission Orbiter, 2015. And, so that kind of stuff. All right. It looks like we may have to take a short little break. When we come back, I want to talk about the alien stuff that the Chinese lander or rover just discovered and some other interesting alien thing. That's right. So we'll take a short break.
He give a few pieces of candy. Dictator. But like I said, now we got Trump. And now, some people, George Bush looks up there. So, what are some issues, that you believe that, we should put forth as a community, knowing that this certain demographic has to earn our vote?
Right. So, I'm just going to say, I'm not huge on politics. So, I don't want to come here and sound like I just know everything. But, education.
Man, you still here? Go on and subscribe.
Get into action. Yo, we back at it again, baby.
What?
Get into action.
3.
Get into action.
Tell me what is the deal, tell me what is the deal.
So I challenge you today to start strong.
Get in the action. Tell me what is the deal. Cause I'm calling for you.
Get in the action.
Can you feel that? See, I'm calling for you. Can you feel that? See, I'm calling for you. Can you feel that? See, I'm calling for you.
Put your money where your community is. Get in the action at weareA1.com.
Look up, because you never know what you will see. Hi, my name is Shen Ge, and I'm the host of SG2 on Space, the only weekly space show here in Houston, with Action One Media Group support every Thursday night. So, my goal here is to educate the public in terms of space science, space flight, physics, astronomy, etc. All that cool jazz, and occasionally about aliens as well. So STEAM education, science, technology, engineering, arts, since that's part of the creative aspect, and mathematics is very important to me, and I feel like Action One Media's goal is aligned with mine. So together, we hope to encourage the knowledge and especially the passion and interest in outer space in our Houston community. Tune in to SG2 on Space on Thursdays at 8 p.m. U.S. Central Time.
All right, guys, and we are back to SG2 on Space, the only weekly space show in Houston, probably Texas too. So, all right, so we have reached a stage here where really this is the only reason I ever do the show, is that when I actually can talk about real stuff, notably aliens. And when I say aliens, I don't mean people from, other countries. I mean people from other planets. All right. Or moons. I don't know if they live on moon. Can life survive on a star? I don't know. Who knows? But anyway, not from Earth. All right. So, speaking of which, I might actually say something which, might be on one of these more popular science media. The Chinese lunar rover has discovered something weird. So, on the far side of the moon, they have discovered a gel-like substance, and this is a few days ago, with a U2 Jade Rabbit 2 rover. So they stumbled it on Lunar Day 8, and it was navigating an area littered with like small impact craters, and then and then found this weird thing. So what is it? No idea. But I approached it closer because it's like, hey, this thing's weird. So I examined it with its visible and near-infrared spectrometer, which detects light that's scattered or reflected off the surface to reveal their makeup. So far, mission scientists haven't really offered a explanation. Outside researchers, who, by the way, don't have access to the data, so I don't know why they're even speculating. They thought it might be melted glass from meteorites. All right. Now, notice this has not been the first time something weird has been discovered on the moon. For instance, Apollo 17 astronaut geologist Harrison Schmitt discovered orange-colored soil near the mission's Taurus littoral landing site in 1972. And it turned out that orange soil was created during an explosive volcanic eruption. Yes, there were volcanoes on the moon, all right? 3.64 billion years ago. Now, what is this? I don't think it's from a volcano. Could it be aliens? I'm naturally going to gravitate that way because if you can't explain something, it's going to be aliens. That's my perspective. Or rather, it could be, okay? So let's see what happens. Hopefully, some data is shared from the Chinese so that, we can get a more conclusive result, let's just say. Yeah, hopefully. So, all right. So with that, let's talk about something that if you guys should possibly read if you want to learn more about actual aliens. So there's a new book called The Strange Craft, or rather, Strange Craft, The True Story of an Air Force Intelligence Officer's Life with UFOs, which is written by a retired Air Force general. So he basically stated, the author John L. Guerra, Guerra, he's a retired Air Force major and a former intelligence officer for the 21st Air Force. So here's what he says. Okay, so now he's 84, right, and living in Medford with his wife. So here's a story which he says is absolutely true, and I have no reason to doubt him. All right, so here's what happened. All right, so it was a freezing winter in January 1978. There was a bipedal creature that was about 4 feet tall and grayish brown color, with a fat head, long arms, and slender body. And this creature was shot to death with 5 rounds from a service member's .45 caliber handgun. So, as he describes in his book, the soldier had originally been in a police pickup truck driving through the wilderness of the base in pursuit of a strange, low-flying aircraft that's been observed passing through the military installation's airspace about 2 a.m. that morning, right? So about an hour into the drive, the soldier became aware, which sounds very horror sci-fi-ish, that this oval-shaped UFO, which was radiating a blue-green glow, was hovering directly over his vehicle. So that's when this creature emerged from the shadows on foot and, revealed itself to be that 4 feet gray-brownish colored creature, right? So what would anybody do, right? There's 2 options. 1, you run away. 2, you start shooting. Actually, there is a third option, which is saying hi, but apparently he didn't do that. He did not say hi, and he did not run away. Instead, he shot. He told the alien to freeze and then shot him. All right, him or her. So the alien died. All right, and then apparently its remains had a foul-smelling ammonia-like stench, which leads me to wonder if you ever shoot somebody. Okay, if you ever smell that, okay, not saying if you ever shoot somebody, but if you ever smell that and it looks like a humanoid, maybe it's actually an alien. All right, just saying. All right, so later that morning, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, there was a cleanup crew from there. They flew in, retrieved the body, behaved, everything was absolutely normal. And now, later inquiries from the media and others, they all say, okay, it's a hoax, nothing ever happened, right? So now where does this guy come in? Where does the guy who wrote the book, where does Filer come in? Well, he says he arrived on base before dawn to prepare his daily 8 a.m. intelligence briefing, right? So when he arrived, security was super tight. He interviewed some of the witnesses for the report. Unfortunately, he was denied access to actually see the alien body, and he was denied access to see the photos. However, it was really strange so he was talking to the senior master sergeant, right? And I'm quoting him from the book now. The senior master sergeant runs everything from who sweeps the floors to organizing the staff schedules and making sure phones and faxes are up and running. He was agitated. His face was pale and his eyes were wide open. Then he said the strangest thing. An alien has been shot at Fort Dix, D-I-X, and they found it at the end of our runway, McGuire Air Force Base, right? So Flyers said, he replied, was it an alien from another country? No, it was from outer space, a space alien, the surgeon explained. There are UFOs buzzing around the pattern like mad. So later, Air Force classified everything as top secret, silenced the witnesses through national security restrictions and pretty much intimidation, and everyone except Filer, apparently. So, anyways, so Air Force says it was discredited as a hoax, and it's been kind of ignored ever since then. But now, guess what? You can actually read the book, right? So, there's a lot of cases where this kind of things happens, I think, where something happens and then we say, oh, it's a hoax. Nothing ever happened. That's, right? So, now there were a lot more things going on like that seemingly in the 1970s, but I just think that's because people actually first started talking about this stuff, right? So, and this was right after the Apollo Moon era when people were really into space and looking up and all that. So, for instance, another case was that there were a bunch of sonic booms, strange booms from the Jersey Shore. That was in between December 1977 and March 1978. And people couldn't explain. Some folks said it was due to the Concorde. Remember that supersonic jet aircraft that unfortunately did not continue. But it did not always follow the Concorde's, flights. So what could it be? Nobody knows. So gosh, who knows this stuff, right? Any case, this is I am actually really excited, by the way, because the MUFON, the biggest UFO reporting website, so to say, or group, their National UFO Reporting Center, the August one's out, and there's 287 reports on this website of UFOs, which is great. The latest one, which was in Savannah, I'm going to read one, and then we can probably conclude this UFO stuff, Lise. So August 23rd, about 12:45. By the way, it seems to be always late at night. Gosh, I don't know why, all right? Maybe during the daytime it's harder to see. I don't know. All right, so this is Savannah, Georgia, a place I've actually been to. So flashing blue lights, one solid red in the middle. I let my dog take his bathroom break while I noticed something in the sky that had two blue flashing lights on this obtuse chevron-like shape with a red light that did not flash in the middle tip of the chevron. It was still in the sky when I got tired of trying to figure out what it was and went to bed. Wow, this guy is quite not descriptive, but sometimes you get those. But that's interesting, at least. Okay. Speaking of interesting, I have to tell you guys also that I write poetry, and I'm going to say next Thursday before this show. So next Thursday, that'll be on the 12th. So on September 12th at 6 p.m. Houston time or U.S. Central time, I'm going to be interviewed on a local Houston radio station called KPFT, and that's 90.1 FM. So you can actually tune in to FM, all right? So you can tune in KPFT, and the show is called Living Art, kpft.org. Okay. And I'm not going to talk about aliens or this kind of stuff, but I will talk about space poetry and reading some of that. And just to note, it's not just about outer space, it's about inner space as well. Inner space is something I never talk about here, because come on. Anyways, but yeah, feel free to tune into that. So 6 p.m. September 12th, 6 p.m. U.S. Central Time, Living Art, 90.1 FM, or if you're not in Houston, kpft.org. All right, so hopefully you can hear some of that interview and me reading some poetry then. All right, and of course, yeah. So with that, I think we can all agree that this has been way too long in me talking. I feel like drinking a gallon of water every time, by the way. But before I go, I have to tell you that you need to go outside today, all right, if you haven't already, and stare at the sky for a few minutes. Just look at it. Because why? Look up, because you never know what you will see. All right. Take care, guys. Follow me, facebook.com/The Shen Show.
Peace, brother Atum Ra, and you tuned in the Action One Network.